Hello everyone, my name is Kevin and I'm here with Novedge Marketing Manager Aurora Meninghello, who is working behind the scenes today, so you won't hear her, but Aurora is saying hi. Both of us would like to welcome you all to our latest Novedge webinar series episode. Today's webinar episode will be a pioneering achievement for us, as it will be the first ever live product demonstration. What I mean to say is that this will be the first to use a webcam. And I want to thank you guys for joining us today, and this is going to be a very unique and exciting look at Affinia's H479 3D printer. Joe Scott joins us as a VP of Marketing from Scott & Associates, but he's also here as a hobbyist and DIYer himself, and he'll be discussing all the necessary steps you'll need to make your first print flawless. Now, if you guys don't know who Joe Scott is, as I mentioned earlier, he's the VP of Marketing at Scott & Associates. He was introduced to 3D printing when his firm partnered with Affinia in 2012. As both an enthusiast and a hobbyist, Joe's fascination with the technology continues to grow with each of his prints. And I also do want to mention that Mike from the Affinia team, from the technical team, will be joining us live to answer your questions as well. So the presentation today is about 40 minutes long, and we'll have a brief Q&A session where Joe and Mike will answer your questions live. So feel free to submit your questions to us at any time into the question box below. But before we get going with the presentation, here's an overview of what we do at Novedge. The Novedge webinar series is brought to you by Novedge.com. As one of the largest online design software stores, we offer a huge assortment of software solutions that cater to virtually every designer's need. If you are interested in picking up a 3D printer, and if it so happens to be a Afinia H479, it is available in the United States from us at Novedge with free shipping included. So to learn more about this out-of-the-box 3D printing experience, I encourage you all to call and speak with our sales specialist, Bob Bayer. You can reach him by his email address, bob@novedge.com. And to get a glimpse of what and who is changing the world of design one step at a time, please visit our Novedge website at blog.novedge.com. Every week, our interviews shine a light on those innovators whose work break out from the norm. So if you want more details, please visit us today. Secondly, for a daily dose of the latest releases, updates, and webinar information, please like and follow us on facebook.com/Novedge. And I do want to briefly mention that we will be working with Microscribe US distributor, GoMeasure 3D, next week. Their application engineer, Paul Motley from GoMeasure, will demonstrate how you can use the digitizer, Microscribe digitizer, to capture and turn your physical objects into a complete 3D model within Rhino V5. Join us for what will be our second live product demonstration and see how the Microscribe system can be used for mechanical or prismatic parts. The webinar is free and will last about an hour long, and includes a Q&A session afterwards as well. So if you want to join us, do check out novedge.com/webinar/77. And if you have to leave for any reason at all, today's webinar is recorded, and if you want to rewatch this and all of our other webinars, do head on to our Novedge webinar series channel through Vimeo and YouTube. And with that said, Joe, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
No worries. Okay, so I will begin the transition now. Joe, you should be the presenter. Take it away.
Very cool. I want to, Kevin, thanks for giving us the opportunity to do this. And as Kevin mentioned, I really
Joe,
didn't
do you have
know.
that?
Okay.
There we go. Got it. Sorry.
Yeah, I really didn't know that much about 3D printing toward the middle of last year. I mean, I'd heard something about it. Had a friend of mine who worked for a manufacturing scale 3D printing company, and went out and took a look at it and didn't really register all that much. And then the folks from Affinia contacted us toward the middle of last year, and as a good marketing person, you know, you have to get to know the organization and the product. So they brought over a box, and actually it was left on my desk, and I showed up and I thought, well, what the heck, I'll just open this thing up. And I was really surprised that I'm not a technical guy. I was really surprised that within about 40 minutes I was actually printing something, and I found the whole process of 3D printing so fascinating that I had to have them move the printer into the warehouse because I would sit there and watch it print. So for those of you who are veterans of 3D printing, hopefully you'll indulge me making that little statement there. For those of you who are brand new to 3D printing, it's pretty fascinating. Some of the things that I hear a lot of, what the heck can you use these things for? And what we use this for in our business is that we have a person at our company that sells promotional products, and we actually do some low-scale customized promotional products and prototypes on our system. So these things have great use for hobbyists. They have great use for engineers and design teams, and also it's very helpful for educators. So with that little background, the first thing that I noticed that was pretty cool about the Affinia product actually wasn't the printer itself, it was the software that came along with it. And as I've become more familiar with the 3D printing space, I'm aware of there are tons of printers that are kits, and they're supported via forums, and there's all sorts of different software packages you can download and mash them together and so forth. And there are friends of mine who just love that journey, putting the kit together, hacking it, making it better, and communicating with people on forums. That's not where I'm at. I just wanted something out of the box that I could print some stuff with. So there's obviously room for both. That's one of the cool things here that the guys at Affinia talk about, their out-of-box experience. So getting back to the software, the first thing that you need to do is you need to find a file that can be printed. And Kevin did a nice job of explaining the different types of design software that Novedge makes available. So you end up with something that's called an STL file, and it's how you manipulate this and the cool things that the Affinia software does that makes this thing really easy to use. So what I'm going to do here is, and those of us that are used to working with Macs and with PCs will find this process pretty simple. Kevin, since you guys are in California, we're going to do an avocado cutter, so I figured you guys would probably appreciate that. So here,
thanks.
yeah, I'm just trying to be
Cool.
to be somewhat amusing. But anyway, so there's our file, and then there's an automatic placement function. So it flops it in the middle of the design area, and you can see, you can kind of rotate it and check it out and make sure everything is cool with it. Since a lot of times we'll run print jobs overnight, and sometimes we would like to run more than one different things. There's some really nice tools in here where you can actually, if you want to run more than one, you can make a copy, and it just kind of plops it into the build area. There's also the capability here too, where if you want to move something around, because as I find, if I want to print multiples, I like to move these things around and twist them so I can get more of them on the build area. So what you can see here is that you can move things around the various axes and put different combinations on there. So what we've got is we got a couple of these avocado slicers sitting here, and they're ready to be printed. Now, I've had the opportunity to converse with a lot of makers on social media, and one of the things that I hear a lot of is, well, what sort of manipulation can I do of the object for different purposes? And what I want to show you is that more of the guts of the software is that the cool thing about this software is that it performs all of the functions necessary to actually print. So you'll have a three-dimensional design, and then what it'll do is it'll also break it down into what they call slices, which are then sent to the printer. So this is, you can use a heated platform. I happen to like it just because it makes it a little bit easier to get the items off. Also, you can see where it says the new spool. We use mostly ABS and PLA. So when you put on another reel, what happens is that the software keeps track of how much filament you've used, and then it'll also automatically set the temperature based upon the material that you have. The fun stuff happens though when you're going to be actually printing something. And just on the area, if you really don't want to dig too much into changing the models, what you can do is do some really simple things like fine quality, normal, or fast. You know, these are the different vertical resolutions. Also too, if you happen to have, like the first time before I knew what I was doing, I printed out a Christmas tree that was about 5 inches tall, and I printed it out as a solid model, and I think it took about 40 hours to print the thing. Now, had I been paying closer attention, like I could have used the unsolid model and saved myself some time. But anyway, that's beside the point. Also, this option here about heating the platform after finishing, that's pretty handy if you have a larger, longer build, and it just makes it a little bit easier to remove. And then this function here where it says no raft, sometimes, and what I'll do is I'll print on glass, and that allows you don't have to have the support material. So I mean, that's quite a bit of detail, but I know that in the audience today we have people who are very technical, and then we have people who are also fairly new at this. So what I'm going to be doing is kind of flipping back and forth between maybe more of the technical parts of it and the just the general things. Now, if you want to start goofing around with more specific things, the Z resolution is basically the layer thickness, and as you can see, we have the options of everything from like 150 microns up to 40 microns, and intuitively you can assume that a 150 micron model is going to print, it'll take twice as long if you're printing a 30 micron or 300 micron model, because the the resolution would be twice as fine. So this gives you some options, and I know in my applications I pretty much also print stuff that I use around the house, and you can set the resolution you think is appropriate. Like I did a couple of switch plates, and I printed those at pretty low resolution. Something else too, this is really handy, helps you manage the cost of the models that you print, is that you can determine what kind of fill you want to have. So you can print it solid if you want. There's all sorts of different options here. This shell option is actually relatively new, and people who use this to print figurines or different things that really don't have a lot of straight vertical or horizontal surfaces, that's pretty handy. The support area, this is something that I consider to be pretty advanced, but it's also pretty cool. For those of you who are not familiar with what support material is, support material are these vertical structures that help the printer print horizontal surfaces. So for example, if you were looking at printing, let's say, a plate where you've got a round section at the bottom that would sit on the build platform, and then the plate would extend somewhat horizontally away from the build, you need to have something underneath there to support the horizontal surfaces. So what this allows you to do is to change the density of the support area, and then also determine how far apart these are, the different sections, and then you can also set the angle at which the support material becomes active. And we printed a number of fairly complex designs that have not required any support material whatsoever. If you're doing something completely crazy, which we like to do on occasion, this stable section that allows you to support things that are particularly huge. So what we're going to be doing here is I'm just going to set the resolution, since the avocado maker probably doesn't need to be particularly tight resolution. We're just going to go with 30, and now we set up what our model is going to do. So we're going to do here is let's just print this thing. And let's just run this for us. All right.
That is so cool.
And
Sorry.
well, and the cool thing about this is that when you can start the printer printing, and then you can disconnect your computer from it, and that's exactly what we were doing here. So what let's do here is, I'll just wait for this thing to get done doing its thing. See, I have these headphones on, so like I was like could barely hear stuff. But what you're seeing, and hopefully you guys can see at the bottom of the screen here, is that it's going through and it's slicing the layers of these two pieces. So what it does is it's reduced all of these two avocado slicers into 40 layers, which I'm sure has something to do with 40 times how many microns we put this together. And it sends it to the printer. And for those of you who can see the image, there are some really simple codes that the light on the bottom, you'll see like red and green flashing. What the guys at Affinia have told me is that they wanted to have this printer really simple to operate. And what you can see here is now what this is telling us is it tells us the weight in grams of the materials we're going to use, and then how long it's going to take to print this. So it's going to be basically around 45 minutes. One of the the things that I've found is that as more of a hobbyist type guy, there's a lot of broken plastic stuff around my house, and I happen to break something off of the table that I have out and back, and there's a couple of brackets that I use to hold the glass of my table together. And I tried finding them online. I couldn't, I didn't know where to look. I probably spent about an hour trying to find the thing, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to make some. So a friend of mine happens to be a SolidWorks type of he's a designer. And so what he said, just send me all of your broken plastic stuff, and then I'll create some files, and you can print them on your 3D printer. So the interesting thing that happened there is, I think for probably the low sum of about I think it cost me like $85, he ended up making me a design for the clips for my table. Then I had some brackets for a fluorescent light. Then I had also broken the little knob off of my mailbox, and there's about 5 or 6 other things that he ended up designing for me. And just as I don't really consider myself to be a maker or anything like that, but I just figured I probably saved myself hours and hours of trying to find these things, and now, I can print them off anytime I want. So from a hobbyist standpoint, that's particularly cool. As I've talked to folks who are engineers, we have a company here in Chanhassen that has like a manufacturing level printer. I think they paid about $35,000 for it. And I was talking to them about it, and the issue that they have is there's such a long line of people waiting to print on the printer that their productivity is starting to suffer a little bit. So I happened to tell them about the Affinia printer, and when they found out that it was a fraction of what it cost for their big one, they ended up getting these printers for their design teams. And now, this printer cannot do everything that a $35,000 printer can do. However, it can do enough of it that is basically offloaded a lot of the design work from their really expensive printer, and that's turned out to be really a great productivity piece for them. On that same regard, I think this was at the Consumer Electronics Show, a gal who was a district superintendent at a school came over, took a look at the printer, asked how much they were, and she ended up buying, I think, 12 of them because they were considering like a commercial grade 3D printer, and they were all about, how can we give more students this experience of seeing their computer designs actually come to fruition. So I found that to be particularly funny because I remember like our kids coming home with these little drawings and stuff that they did in class, and you stick them on the refrigerator. Now what we're doing, and I think this is something that we need to really consider for our competitive nature of our company or our country, is that the science, technology, engineering, and math, and the more kids that we can expose to computer-aided design, and more importantly, the the computer-aided manufacturing part of it, that's going to be really important, because I think what we're going to be doing is I think we're raising a generation of makers who, instead of going to the store to buy something, they're going to have the capability to not only design it, but they can print the thing out. So probably what my grandkids are going to be doing is they're going to be bringing their 3D printed designs over instead of their little drawings. So for those of you who happen to be in the education marketplace, there's some fantastic opportunities there. We actually, our local Integrated Arts Academy purchased one of these printers, and I actually was invited to speak to the kids. We had like an 8-week session, and what I didn't know at the time is that the kids that are in the class were some of the most challenging students in the school district. And when they came in the first day and the printer was running, they unplugged their earbuds and they just stood there and looked at the printer, and just with their mouths hanging open, and I had them. And they came routinely every week for 8 weeks, and it was really a great experience. So if that's the kind of impact that this has on some of the most challenging students in a school district, you can imagine what would happen for to the kids that are perhaps more engaged in the educational process. So there's some great things that have happened here. One of the things too that I find pretty handy, as like a non-hacker maker kind of a guy, I really like the fact that when I do something particularly silly or I don't understand something, I can get on the phone and talk to. Actually, I think Mike and I have probably talked. He's laughing now. I would say since we got we have 2 printers here now. I think since August, Mike, how many times have I talked to you?
It hasn't been as many as you would think, but you pick up the phone quite a bit.
Yeah, so
I'm counting on you.
Yeah. So and it's what I find particularly gratifying is seeing some of the comments that people make on social media about the support. Now, granted, if you're into the journey of building a kit and making it work and improving it and so forth, that's fantastic. For those of you who are more like me, who it's just kind of like, I want to get it out of the box and I want it to be printing, that's fantastic. I know the guys from Novedge too, because they have a pretty deep bench as far as 3D design software, so they would be able to pair a great design tool with this printer. So we had a chance to touch on some of these things. Just this whole process of shortening the time from when someone comes up with an idea to giving it 3-dimensional capability, I think is just really amazing. And there's one of the industries where I've just been really surprised at how this product has been accepted is in the jewelry making industry. They're actually the first person I associated with was a jewelry manufacturer in the San Francisco Bay Area, so Kevin, kind of out by where you guys are. And she had this dilemma. She has these fantastic designs, and they were going to be made out of plastic, and she was considering spending certainly thousands of dollars in tooling because she wanted to get the cost of manufacturing down. But then, of course, she had the investment in tooling, and then she had the investment in inventory. which is, you guys know, investing in fashion-related inventory can be extremely risky. We happen to have some conversations on Twitter. She ended up investing in one of these printers. And now what she's doing is not only is she designing her jewelry, but she's actually printing them out. So she's giving her customers the opportunity to say, what color do you want it? How big do you want it? And this whole idea of mass customization is something that I find particularly exciting because it's really similar to what I've seen happen in the music business. Because when I was coming up in the music business, that's one of my hobbies. If you had to get a record deal, and then you had to work through people who held the keys to the and musicians usually didn't really make any money. But now, and actually Affinia's sister company Microboards is into this business. Now pretty much anybody can record their music, and they can publish their music, and they can record it and sell it and keep all the money. And that's kind of the thing that we're seeing here now with 3D printing, is that there are a large number of individuals who are able to manufacture their own products directly on a one-off basis for their clients. And so I find that that particularly interesting too. Kevin, what sort of applications are you guys finding particularly interesting for 3D printing technology?
I would say that I hear a lot about prototyping because it's going to be tough, especially if you're trying to, because we have a 3D printed wrench here that Franco showed me when I first joined the team, and I think that's definitely the area that people are going to use a lot for. I mean, you're going to have hobbyists, and then you're going to have designers who are definitely the people who would be more interested, because what is that product going to feel like in my hands? How is it, the ergonomics, the economics? I mean, is it going to feel right? I mean, I think that's why Affinia, especially for a small shop, especially a small design shop, for them to print something and to have it in their hands, I think that's totally awesome. That's a major application right there.
Oh, you know what? Thank you for mentioning that, because our viewers at home are probably wondering what the heck this is. And I'll pull it into the camera, so hopefully nobody gets vertigo or something when I do this. But the one on the bottom is an aluminum extrusion die for a rotary screw actuator. So what does that mean? Well, this is a company. What they do is they take rotational motion and turn it into horizontal motion. So what they do their product line, it's everything from these little actuators that move the eyelids on dinosaurs to these things that flip up those big steel blast panels on aircraft carriers. So they have this really expensive and very cool printer, and they printed that design out in gray. So that's their printer. The purple one was, oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, by the way, Joe, could we get I have a question. Like, someone from the attendee asked if they can get a top angle view of
oh, yeah.
what's actually being printed. That'd be cold.
I was looking at that and I was going, duh. Okay, just a second. I hope nobody gets dizzy.
Oh wow. Okay, check that out, guys.
Does that even help? Let me just.
Per, what do you think? Maybe if we can get a little bit closer, that'd be cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
This would only happen in a live webinar.
Yes. In some case, video nar.
Video nar.
Yeah.
Does that help? I mean,
I think that helps a lot, right?
Ask your guy. Can you see that okay, you guys?
I can see it pretty good.
Let me see if I can scoot this up a little bit higher. Oops.
That's actually good.
You get people vertigo. Okay, so you can kind of see the approach. But what I was talking about too is that you see these two deals. The gray one was printed on a really expensive printer, and the purple one was printed on this very printer. So I'm going to kind of zoom in here with this, and I don't know if you guys can tell the difference, but those things are they're pretty close. I mean, when I presented it to their chief engineer, she said, the only way I could tell the difference between the two of those things is that the gray one came from our machine and the purple one came from yours. So they actually had the same resolution. Actually, when the Affinia printer went to 150 microns, the resolution is actually better than that really expensive printer. Now, I'm not saying that this printer is going to do everything that a really expensive printer can do. That would not be the case. However, if you can do some fairly complex things with it. But yeah, Kevin, I think that's proven to be a really good opportunity, and I just think it's so much fun. Every once in a while, the guys from Affinia will let me go to a trade show, and I happened to be at one in Minneapolis. It was a design to part show, which was all about prototyping, and I was sitting on the side, and I love listening to conversations, and you'd see, you know, a fellow or a gal come up, and they'll stand there and look at it, and then they'll look at the things that have been printed, and then they'll say, how much is this? And then they tell them what the price is, and they're just dumbfounded. So I just think it's kind of funny to see that sort of reaction that people have when they see this particular product.
Actually, Joe, here I have some questions coming in. This is from
Cool.
RJ, and this is related to because you know, you're talking about people watching and they're wondering whether or not it will work with their system, and you know, like design software, you know, like Rhino or AutoCAD, they have different prices as well. So RJ wants to know. Let me find RJ's question here. RJ wants to know, can we use the Affinia printer with different software, and then what type of materials it can use?
Oh, that's
Thanks,
a
RJ.
really good. Yeah, RJ, thanks. That's a dynamite question. What I've done personally is I've printed with ABS plastic, and there's a friend of mine that has an injection molding operation that they use ABS plastic all the time. So he gave me one of his files. I printed it, and I gave it back to him, and they have like all this equipment that rips stuff apart and crushes stuff and whatever. And he told me, and I think this matches what I've heard from the guys at Affinia, is that something that's printed on this printer with using ABS, which is what we're using right now, is about 30% as strong as an injection molded piece. So basically what that says is that A, they're pretty strong, B, I mean, there's no way that this technology would produce something that would be on par with a injection molded piece that's using tons of pressure. So anyway, ABS, and then I've also used PLA, which is more of like a recycled product. What this printer does is when you tell it the type of plastic that you're using, it'll automatically change the temperature at which it gets heated up to, which I think is pretty cool. I've used nylon. Nylon's pretty cool. That works really well. Now what I haven't tried, but I know that it works because some of our Affiniacs, as they're called, there's this wood filament that is really cool. And we have some, but I haven't had it to use it yet. So basically there's 4 different types of filament that I'm familiar with. There may be some other pieces. From a software standpoint, that's a really easy one. Any software package that can output an STL file, and I don't know what that stands for. It's maybe super transitional language. I don't know what it means. But if you can output an STL file, the Affinia software will allow you to pull it in to the build area that, you know, like we did with our avocado slicer, and then you can, you know, manipulate it. Also, something really cool is that I have a tendency to look for kind of strange looking things. There's a number of online databases where you can download stuff for free, and I've downloaded a couple of things that looked really, really cool, and one of the guys, actually Mike, who's here with us now, showed me how to zoom in on stuff, and you can identify where there may be errors in the design, and one of the tools in this Affinia software will fix a lot of the errors that may inherently be in the model. Now, I'm not saying it's going to repair everything, but I printed out a fairly large model that had some errors in it, and it looked okay, but when Mike showed me how to do and literally you click on the design and then it says fix, and then it goes through and it kind of interpolates the surfaces around the error and makes its best guess. So I guess the bottom line is that you can print with ABS plastic filament, you can print with PLA, you can print with nylon, you can print with some other things. As with anything else, there are a whole lot of people who sell filament for 3D printers. And some of them are dynamite. Some of them are not quite so dynamite. And so it's really important to make sure that a couple of things have to happen. Number one, the consistency of the diameter of the filament is really important because you're working in a situation where you're putting a lot of pressure and a lot of heat on the filament, and to get it to lay down at the right temperature and so forth. So what the folks at Affinia have done is that they actually have designed filament that is specifically for the machine, and then the filament that I've got here is their value line, which is still really good. It's less expensive, which, since I'm kind of a thrifty guy, that's why I'm printing with that right now. So anyway, a lot of different materials. The printer, if you tell it what kind of material you have, it'll set the temperature for you. And then literally any sort of software that can give you an STL file, and that's everything from the free stuff to the really expensive stuff, that's all you need.
Cool. To add to that, Joe, can you show us how we could adjust that through the software that comes with Affinia?
Yeah. Oh, oh, by the way, this is something I think is kind of cool too, is that, so this is my little, as you can tell, this is my, once the printer starts printing, you can just unplug it and take your laptop or whatever someplace else. But yeah, I'll see if I can. Okay, what I have to do is, while the thing's printing, I can't like manipulate the software. But to answer that question, there is a section in when you go into 3D print, there's a maintenance section, and in there has a button that says New Spool. And there's a means by which the printer will heat and then back out the filament, so you can stick another one in, and then when you type in New Spool, it'll ask you the type of the material, and it'll ask you the weight, which when it's a new spool you just kind of know, and that's how that process works. Now with me, what I do is I just kind of cut the thing off and then put the next reel in. Also, you can do some kind of cool stuff, changing the color of the filament during printing, which kind of has some pretty cool results. And I've got some examples I can run and grab. But yeah, I mean, it's really user friendly, and for somebody like me who's not like a highly technical guy, I find it just fascinating, and I love having people come into our office and look at this, even if they initially have no interest in it. And like I was saying, educators, hobbyists, engineers, and jewelry makers and stuff. I mean, there's very wide applications.
Cool. Joe, I have a question. Rain wants to know, this might be your own personal preference, but do you prefer to print on the plain plate, or do you use the removable preferred plates that came with the printer?
Oh, well, actually, all the plates are removable, and you can probably see the kind of silver things. What do I prefer? It depends upon what I'm printing. I mean, if it's something that is, maybe heavier, like this avocado thing, I think printing on this little, they call it perf board, I think that's pretty cool. The thing I like about perf board is that you can heat it up, and then the filament actually gets kind of pushed down into the holes, and as you may or may not be able to see, those models that we're printing are stuck on there really well. And you can, what I do is I remove the perf board, and then the Affinia comes with this big box of tools, like literally everything you need to start printing, including like your first bunch of filament. So anyway, so I like using the perf board, but then there's sometimes when I've got, like, for example, I don't know if, let me see if I can, let me just flip my camera up so I can see what I'm doing here. I don't know if you guys can see this little deal here, but this is actually a clip for the filament so that it doesn't like unwind. Well, I printed these things. I printed about 20 of them on glass because you really don't need a lot of the, you don't need support. Plus it's kind, you know, when you're trying to remove support material on something that's really tiny like this, I mean, I want to keep all my fingers. So it's all personal preference, but the machine, I mean, it's pretty flexible. I mean, that's one of the things I like about it.
Shall we just go on ahead with the Q&A session, Joe? Or
oh, cool. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, because I have a list of questions from a number of
Oh,
folks.
great. Well,
Yes.
I'll get more punchy about answering them.
Okay, so Mike might want to jump into this too because Cisse wants to know, Cisse, sorry if I pronounced it incorrectly, but I'm in a 3D creature creation class using Zbrush, which is a pretty popular software solution. Would a model be printed in parts of this machine?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, the answer to that question is yes, because the build area on this printer is about 5 inches by 5 inches by 5 inches. And we saw this really cool submarine that was, I think it was 15 inches long. And so what we're able to do, and I wish I could tell you the name of the software that we use to break. Mike will probably yell because he knows what that is. But there's some software you can actually break up your design and then assemble it. So to answer the question, if you're making something that's bigger than the build platform, you can use, break it up into pieces. One of the things that I would recommend is that make sure you use like a premium filament. And one of the things that my guess is, and I'm thinking that if you're building a creature, you're probably going to paint it or something. What I would recommend doing is use natural premium filament for 2 reasons. One is that there isn't any artificial color in it, so it actually lays down about as close to perfect as you can possibly get. And then number 2, you don't have the same variation in size as it cools down. I mean, we've measured it. Sometimes these parts might, and I'm not talking about friends. I mean, talking about there is some shrinkage. That's usually about 1%, and something that's really high precision, 1%. You know, maybe it might be an issue. We've done it where we've taken halves of a creature and put them together, and it actually worked pretty well. But yeah, you can split them up into pieces, and which is actually advantageous, because if you try to, let's say if you had like a build area that was 8 by 8 by 8, and you're running something that's going to run for like 3 days, well, if the print fails, you've just wasted a whole bunch of time and a whole bunch of filament. But if you break it up into chunks, you know, if 10% of it fails, well, it's probably easier to recover from. So that's just my preference.
Cool. Here's another question about ZBrush. So I think that was kind of answered. You know, what quality details can be reproduced here, and Oris wants to know: is there a setup that is best for ZBrush models? Probably breaking up, right? I mean,
if it's bigger than the build area, that's very common. So that'd be my suggestion. And as far as the detail goes, we ran a series of torture tests where we took models that were deemed to be unprintable because of the resolution and because of just the sheer craziness. And the detail that we can get, of course, you know, you're talking about 150 microns vertically, and what we like to see is we like to see models where the vertical surfaces are no less than 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeters, just because for strength purposes you want to be able to get a couple of passes. So hopefully that helps.
cool. Okay. And Rain wants to know: sometimes when I use the fix feature in the software, part of the model turns red. What does the red signify?
Oh, what my experience is with the autofix or the fix thing is that when it's loaded, I take a look at it and zoom in, and like the little red spots in there are the spots that the software is kind of questioning, like, what's going on here. The autofix will take care of like small imperfections. If there's just monster red, I've never tried to print a model, but my guess is that may be beyond the realm of what the fix command can do. But like me, I go, let's print it anyway and see what happens.
Let's see. All right, so would STL files from Vectorworks software be useful? Thank you, Renato. I think it should be able to, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, we've printed literally, I'd say, hundreds of models, and I have no idea where they came from. You know, they're STL files that somebody made somewhere. I know for sure AutoCAD and SketchUp, and there's some other stuff. Tinkercad, I think somebody said. So, I mean, if it's an STL file, you know, I don't think that our Affinia printer is meant an STL file it didn't like.
Gotcha. Okay, let's see. David wants to know, so if a computer, whether or not a computer is tied up while printing, especially with the software, is the software tied up with the printing? But I know that you can disconnect the printer from the computer, right? So
right. But is the so is the question if
computer, can the software be manipulated with when disconnected from the printer, I guess?
You know what? I'm gonna ask Mike this question because I think I know the answer, but I'm not gonna say what it is. Mike, what the question? I think what the question is here is that when the printer is printing a model, and assuming that you didn't disconnect the USB cable,
right,
can you unload the design that you're printing and then load another design and then start playing with that kind of an?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can. It's still going to show, depending on if you're using the Mac or Windows, you'll still see a countdown of, you know, it'll always display the countdown. It tries to give you an estimation of the time it's going to take to print. But you can go through and open a new model, manipulate it, get it ready to print when this one's done. It's already sent the print that it was going to do previously to the printer, so it shouldn't affect it in any effect.
Let's try it. I'm kind of an idiot about that stuff. Okay, yeah. So
yeah,
this is
can,
yep. Yay! So there you go. Oh, you guys are going to have some sort of a little drawing for this. Is the flying Yoda? Is that what I understand?
Oh, that is correct. I was going to mention that later, but but yeah. So for the attendees who didn't get the chat message to everybody, if you are in the United States, we have a random drawing. So if you respond with a me too, or if you send me an email at kevin@novedge.com with a subject heading me too, you'll be entered into a random drawing where you'll have a chance to win what you see there. Joe is going to send that out on behalf of the with the Affinia team, and we'll be sending that out. So if you want to participate, send me an email. Oh yeah, but since we're talking about communication, do you guys have a forum or online community where you know, like forums where users and potential users can ask questions about Affinia's printer?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of ways that the questions get asked. Is that I know that some Affinia customers have created forums on Google, because I like to follow that. Also, too, on the Affinia Facebook page, people will post pictures of their builds. They'll ask questions there. I know on Twitter, we get a lot of questions about just a whole range of different things. So I guess if someone's got some information or wants information, they could probably call you guys at Novedge, or just take a look at the various Affinia social media platforms. And but and then if the guys at Novedge, if it's a question that's, you know, ultra technical, I'm sure that the guys over at Affinia would be able to just call and ask for Mike. I want to talk to Mike. But he is pretty cool. He's really helped us out. And the thing I like about working with Mike is that when I talked to him. He doesn't roll his eyes, and he doesn't make any comments about how uneducated. So anyway, he's pretty cool. He's heard it all. But one of the interesting things is and I don't know how many units Affinia has out there. From what I can tell though, it's probably, I'd say probably number 3. From what I can tell, marketing wise, it's number 3 in the marketplace. The guys at customer support get like maybe a handful of calls an hour. So the printer is quite solid, and one of the things that people are really surprised at is I know that there's one printer, like of the top 3, you know, Affinia is number 3. One of these printers, the other printers, has got a 14-day warranty. The other one's got a 90-day warranty, and the Affinia is 1 year, and I have used that 1-year warranty. Just calling, and the thing is too is that I did something stupid once, and they were kind enough to help me fix it. But everything else is pretty much, I'm calling them and asking them questions about, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? You know, so it's more instructional type stuff. But that's one of the things that, just as a consumer, I think the warranty that one offers on a product is a direct a direct statement on the confidence that a manufacturer has in their product. So, you know, plus you can buy a 2nd-year warranty for like not a lot of money. So that was something that really struck me, because I'm used to, you know, at least 1-year warranties on, you know, if I'm going to invest in something that's serious like one of these printers, I expect to get a 1-year warranty, and I expect to talk to a human being on the other end of the line. So that's something that I think is just really cool. And you guys at Novedge, you guys are really monsters on support too, so it's really, really a good combination.
Cool, thanks, Joe. Speaking of support, let's support another one of our questions here. Let's see. Speaking from his perspective, I've seen some software that creates a balanced model still while it's in a 3D program. Sometimes people tend to print something that has a tendency to fall over because of its uneven weight. Do you guys offer something like this to avoid this with the Affinia printer?
Oh, that's a dynamite comment. That's the cool thing about let's say you have a model that is let's say a torso of a human being with their arms out. Let's say both arms pointed to the left side of the body. So that would be really lopsided. What the Affinia software does automatically is it looks at the model and goes, oh, that model is lopsided. So what it does is it automatically calculates support material construction to hold the 2 arms up so the model won't fall over. Like you can see the little Yoda guy. Actually, that was built without support material. But yeah, to answer the question specifically, if you have a model that is really lopsided and you can't rotate it within the Affinia software to make it easier to print, it will calculate where the support material goes and how much support material is needed. And you don't even have to, you can just focus on designing whatever you want to design, and the Affinia software will figure out how to get it printed in 3D.
You can also manipulate.
So Joe, you're telling me automatically that
30-degree angle, 45-degree angle, to put it less or more if you think it needs it, because skinny things can fall over easy. You can raise it.
Yeah. Did you hear what Mike was saying? Here, I can scoot over. We're gonna huddle
like louder.
But you can actually manipulate the angle. You know, if you've got a person like Joe was saying, stretching his arms out, you know, you can manipulate that. If they're bent at the elbow, that's going to be a 45-degree angle of something that's it's going to have more weight on top of something that needs support material underneath it. You can manipulate that and put the angle at, like, say, a 30-degree angle, so it will actually build more support to handle more of a sturdy structure underneath it. And it calculates it automatically, but you can manipulate it even to make it stronger or better depending on what you're doing.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to unplug my little headset because so Mike can hear, and then I'm going to scoot and show you something really cool that was printed. And I hope you don't mind the kind of the background noise here, but
For it's all
I'm going
good.
to show you something that we printed without any support material, and it's kind of cool.
Joe just walked off. But yeah, so I was going to ask that because, and I think you already answered this, Mike, that the software built in with Affinia's STL software, it automatically prompts you and lets you know whether or not it's going to be able to balance the model during printing.
Right. It actually doesn't even, basically it'll do it automatically anytime you send a print. It won't tell you that it can't balance something, because if the print file isn't proper geometry or something like that, you'll definitely get the message letting you know. But if it's a proper geometry model, it can build support material to support it. It'll just automatically do it.
Yeah, and this guy here, as you can see, this is like a kind of a cool globe thing. And this was printed without support material at all, which was, I was pretty surprised, because I figured there'd have to be some stuff on the inside to kind of hold this up. But what happened is that the Affinia software decided that it didn't need any support material, and it just printed it that way. Also, this is like, I was in goof around mode. So we started printing this thing, and we just changed the filament colors as we went. So that's, if you want to get particularly crazy, you can do stuff like this.
It's a nice one.
Cool. Okay, so I have one last question. This is once again from Rain. Thank you for the amount of questions. Let's see. How often do you calibrate the platform for the Affinia printer?
Well, I was going to say, I'll tell you my answer, and then Mike will give you his answer. After I set it up, I've never recalibrated it. So, okay, what am I supposed to be doing?
Well, it's not completely necessary to recalibrate it a whole lot. Some people do it as a precautionary measure. I'm a little bit OCD myself, so I do it quite a bit. Really, unless you're changing the actual surface, like saying you're going to a thicker measure of glass back to a perf board, or some people even use certain types of painter's tape, stuff like that. When you change that, the surface that it's printing on, it's usually a good idea to go ahead and do the platform calibration. Otherwise, if you're using the same type of perf boards over and over again, honestly, I've got a printer that I just keep going with junk test prints, and I've done it once, and I haven't done it in a month and a half. So it's going every day. Usually not a problem.
And I think, too, they're in the latest software release. I believe there's some auto calibration where it adjusts the raft a little bit to keep things flat. But I mean, this is stuff that's totally transparent to me. One thing I just also wanted to toss in is that as we've been looking at, some of the other folks in the marketplace, one of the things that I find really handy is that with the Affinia printer, you're not locked into purchasing any particular person's filament. I mean, I'm sure that the guys from Novedge would love to have you buy the filament from them, which is fantastic. Some people like to shop around, and so you're not stuck with a particular cartridge or anything like that, which is pretty handy, because the cost of the material can cause your cost of ownership to be quite high. And this allows, you can go out in the open market and find, decent filament that'll work for you.
I think that pretty much sums up the presentation. I can hear my voice a little bit there, but so if you guys have any questions about like product comparisons, how does Affinia compare to 3D Systems Cube or MakerBot, feel free to send those questions to us at Novedge. You can send them to Bob at novedge.com, and also to the Affinia team too as well. Okay, so let me switch back to me as a presenter. Joe, we're good to go.
Very cool. Let me push
Awesome.
a few buttons over here. And
Gotcha. Got it. Should be good
Did
to
that
go.
work?
Yes, should be working.
Perfect.
Cool. And you guys can still see the printer running. This is a live webcam, so this is awesome. But on behalf of the team at Novedge, I want to thank you guys for joining us. This is really cool. Thank you for joining this really our first ever live webcam demonstration. And a little bit more information about the printer from us at Novedge. So if you are interested in picking up a 3D printer from us, the Afinia H479 is available in the United States from us at Novedge with free shipping included. So if you're interested, and if you want to learn more, head on over and you can send us an email. Just ask our sales specialist, Bob, at Novedge.com, okay? And to get a glimpse at what and who is changing the world of design one step at a time, please visit our Novedge website at blog.novedge.com. Every week, our interviews shine a light on those innovators whose work break out from the norm. And we're going to put all these questions together, send them to the Affinia team, and then we're going to post them as a Q&A blog at the blog right there. So definitely check that out. And secondly, for a daily dose of the latest releases, updates, and webinar information, please like and follow us on facebook.com/Novedge. Also, in our next upcoming webinar, application engineer Paul Motley from Go Measure 3D will demonstrate how you can use the Microscribe digitizer to capture and turn your physical objects into a complete 3D model within Rhino V5. Join us for what will be our second live product demonstration and see how the Microscribe system can be used for mechanical or prismatic parts. The webinar is free and will last about an hour, so and this also includes a Q&A session. So if you guys want more information, head on over to novedge.com/webinar/77. And if you have any questions, comments, feedback on how we can improve, email Bob at novedge.com and also myself at kevin@novedge.com. I noticed some of you guys had to leave early. That is totally fine because this webinar is recorded live. If you want to check out this, rewatch this again, head on over to vimeo.com/Novedge and also youtube.com/Novedge. And last words, any last words, Joe? Or?
Oh, I just want to let you know that we're a couple minutes away from you and Aurora's avocado slicers, so as soon as they're done, we probably won't be able to get them in FedEx today, but we'll get them off the machine, and you can hopefully use them in good health.
Cool. Oh yeah, also a quick reminder. So if you guys want to enter the random drawing for for people in the U.S. only, do send me email at me2 with the heading at me2 at kevin@novedge.com, and we'll be sure to let you guys know through Facebook and also Twitter who won. So yeah, do check it out. I want to thank you guys again for joining us, and thank you, Mike, for answering those super technical questions, and that pretty much sums up our webinar demonstration.
Mike says thank you.
Oh, yes. Thanks for having me.
No worries. All right, see you guys later. Have fun.
All right, take care. Bye now.
Ciao.